Dr. Ray Nebel, Senior Researcher at Select Sires, and Ray gives us an update on gender-selected semen and the process and protocols to keep in mind as we develop a sound breeding program.
Well, of course, one of the big ones is gender-selected semen that came out more or less in a marketing evaluation in 2005, and now we're rolling out with 12 machines. We're producing about 50,000 units of semen a month. So by far, an industry leader in that sense, and that we have such an extensive lineup. That's one of the new, maybe sexy things going on, that you can, grow from within as far as for biosecurity, and to keep the percent of heifers very stable at 90%. It's coming in. So instead of 46, 48% heifers, to be shooting almost double at 90% heifers.
So producers would have the opportunity, rather than going out off-farm, selecting genetics, some of those contractor options still available, but that genetic source would come from in-house.
Yep, and a few things that we didn't even take into mind when we got into it was, one was calving ease. With half or a little bit more than half being bulls, your real calving ease comes from heifers. So most of the producers have told us what happens is now they're getting more milk from those dams that are calving because they don't have to go through that stressful time of having those bull calves. And frankly, that's one that we didn't think about coming out. Biosecurity and being able to, so many herds are in expansion mode, and the price of heifers have been pretty up there for a long time. I mean, probably longer stretch than ever before in history. And there's concern with the borders being lifted in Canada, but I don't see that as, again, with the biosecurity issue. And if you can grow your own, many people would see that as the best option.
You talk about an unintentional side effect, but a very positive one. My mind just begins to wonder, with the heifer gestation length, oftentimes we see a little bit shorter there. Have you noticed that as well?
Yep, that's another good question, because yesterday here they were saying that they put them in. They've learned to put them in a dry lot maybe 2 weeks earlier, because they're going to calve usually 4 to 5 days earlier than a bull calf. But knowing that's part of the deal, and lower calving ease and a shorter gestation, maybe a little bit more attention, because then they're all going to be heifers, where before it's like, well, half of them are going to be bulls. Those are some things that kind of learn on the fly that we really didn't intend, that we knew all the answers up front.
As we look towards managing a successful breeding program, and we're looking at gender-sorted semen as an option, what do we need to know, and what kind of cows do we use this on, those kind of things?
We're still recommending on heifers only, and first and second service, not in the summertime or in times of extreme heat or cold. This past week I was visiting some farms in Iowa, and it was interesting. Last year they had as low conception rates in February as they had in August. And I guess I don't think of that coming primarily from from Virginia and Ohio, that our winters are usually the times to really get a lot of cows pregnant. But in this part of the country, in the upper Midwest, last winter was challenging. So in those times when we're going to have challenges for conception, we don't want to use gender-selected semen. So normally we don't recommend it for the summer heat. We recommend it on the most fertile animals, because the conception rate we're getting is 80% of conventional. So if normally you get 60% in heifers, you would expect 48%. And along that line, we normally start about a month earlier. So that means the heifer grower has to be ready to get those heifers to the right size a little bit sooner, because we don't want to compromise size, because then we're kind of defeating the whole purpose. So we're breeding now probably more heifers at 12 and 13 months of age, so that we know the conception rate is going to be a little bit lower. But I think the benefits have been shown that producers, this is a product that the producers have been waiting for a long time, but one that's really kind of taken off in the marketplace.
Share with us a little bit more of the details on how gender-sorted semen comes to be, some of those concerns.
That's, again, another really good question, because it's changed a lot of things at Select Sires. The machines run 24 hours a day. There's 3 8-hour shifts, and it's not our employees and it's not our machines. There's a company out of Navastoshes, Texas, that have the machines in 6 different labs, one in Brazil, one in Holland. They're putting up a lab in Canada, and then all the labs at the AI companies in North America are all this company called Sexing Technology. So the bulls are collected at 6:30 in the morning, around 1:30 in the afternoon, and 8:30 at night, which never happened before. And then the semen's brought about a quarter of a mile down to a lab that used to be Select Embryos, and 12 machines are sitting there, the bulls come in. Only the bulls with the higher fertility and higher sperm counts are even qualify for gender selected, and then they are applied to the machines. It takes about 6 hours for that semen to be sorted, and then they freeze it, put it in quarter mil straws. They're all pink straws, so we know that we're expecting heifers, and then it's frozen. They send it back to us with a bill, and we do evaluation before it's sent out. So it is a different procedure, and it has changed the way that from the production barns to management of the bulls. Some of those bulls, they don't go on until we have conventional semen of about 30,000 units, because we know that's going to be, if they're in the demand. And then once that conventional semen supply goes down, we might have to pull them off and produce some conventional semen. So it has been more of a management on our end. But I think we think it's worth it to do that, to go that extra mile.
Along the lines of lower conception rates, and just slightly lower at that, but is there some damage to the sperm cells? Is that why we see that through the flow cytometry process? I
don't think that's really the case. I mean, a lot of, novice would think because the DNA is stained, then it runs through a machine that hit with a laser, it's at high speed, but I really think it's more the sperm count, 2.1 million. Conventional semen would have 15 to 20 million, but because of the inefficiency of sorting, these straws are at 2.1 million. And we're actually thinking about maybe doing a study of sorted and non-sorted to really see where's the inefficiency at. Is it at the sperm number or the sorting procedure? If we're going to move forward with research, if it's the sorting procedure, then what do we need to do to kind of figure out what has to be improved?
One of the old adages you typically see on the farm with folks is, well, if I'm getting a lower conception rate, maybe I should use a couple of straws. Not necessarily a recommended practice, though.
No, not really, because of the price. I mean, we're talking twice or three times normal price because of of every 100 cells that goes on a machine, we only yield 11. Because you've got to remember, half are males, half are females, and not every female cell is going to be identified as a female cell. So every 100, we only get 11. And again, there's that processing technology fee that we pay another company. So that right there almost eats up the price of the conventional semen right there. So with that added price, I would say no. We don't recommend it for flush cows for embryo transfer, but I can tell you I've been to a lot of farms around the United States that have, and they're using 4 to 5 straws because they normally breed at 2 different times, and they usually use 2 straws. But again, that's a instance when you have to really push the economics as is it worth it? Because again, on a flush, you know how many embryos are you going to get, and you're still going to only get 90%. So if you get 5, I'd expect 4, and then normally if you get 5, you'd probably get 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. So is that added heifer really worth it?
Right. As you look at your sire lineup, what percentage would you say are hitting the mark in terms of being able to qualify for gender sorted, and how do you see that growing in the near future?
Right now we have 37 bulls that are available for gender selected. And again, there's 3 things that they have to qualify. 1, they have to be high fertility, which probably a third of the lineup would qualify there. The next thing, they have to have high sperm production, which again, that would eliminate some of the high fertility ones. And then they have to be that they're not in too much demand in conventional semen. So there's really 3 criteria they go through. 1 is quality and their track record in fertility. They have to be high fertility. Second, they have to be high producers. And then third, they have to be that we can take them out of conventional production and, like I said, a bank of 30,000 units. And then when that bank goes down, we have to be able to then switch it back the other way. And so in the total lineup, every genetic run that we get from USDA, there'll be new bulls put in. And then some of the bulls that come out as they've been used. I was at a farm this week that had used extensively gender-selected semen, and there's a few bulls they don't want to use anymore because they're going to have plenty enough daughters. Makes perfect good sense. So they're constantly looking for new bulls to fit into that program.
Drew looks at me. I fake a smile so he won't see that I